watching First Business. Financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Angela Miles. Just ahead on this special edition of First Business, retail deals. Stocks traders want to buy this holiday season as Americans head to the mall. How to avoid letting the Grinch steal your Christmas if you plan to hand out gift cards. Why young Americans are big believers in the economy but fear the stock market. And 500 reasons why American investors are thankful this year. Now on to a look at the market. Trader Matt Shapiro, president of MWS Capital, joins us now to talk about the Santa Claus Rally. Good morning to you, Matt.
Good morning, Angie.
So explain to our viewers who may be new to this, exactly what is the Santa Claus Rally?
Well, it's a little slow at the end of the year. Most trading firms have kind of finished and starting to close the books, and there's just not a lot of action going on in the market, and stocks tend to just kind of rise when there's a lack of pressure, and as you say, never sell a dull market. And, I think a lot of people are looking at each other after all the corrections that we had so far in 2014, dusting ourselves off. We had a good year.
So what sectors, as a money manager, do you tend to watch towards the end of the year? Because clearly you are in this to make some money. So what sectors are likely to go up when there's a Santa Claus rally?
Well, this year I'm looking at the small caps which had an off year. Foreign markets, especially the euro, the dollar was so strong this year. And, of course, those beaten down dogs, IBM being one example. Are people going to sell them into the end of the year or kind of buy them into the end of the year? Because there's sometimes a little bit of tax loss selling. So I'm watching, the dogs and also, the Alibabas of the world. Are those going to continue to rise? And especially with, the cyber sales, how's UPS going to deliver all its goods? Remember, the holiday selling season started in late October with Halloween. That's the way it goes now.
When you have a Santa Claus rally, does it tend to bring volatility to the market? Because as you mentioned, a lot of traders are home for the holidays.
Right. It actually tends to have limited volatility, not a lot of work going on the trading desks. Many of the senior traders are home. The money managers have placed most of their bets. There's not a lot of selling pressure, but subtle buying pressure tends to lift the market.
Thank you, Matt, and happy holidays.
You're welcome. Happy holidays, too.
My friend and colleague Chuck Coppola is here with a holiday warning about gift cards. Good morning, Chuck.
Angie, the most requested gift of the holiday season is also high on the wish list of fraudsters. The National Retail Federation is warning of gift card fraud. That's when thieves use stolen credit cards to buy gift cards, then resell the cards on the secondary market, or use stolen gift cards to buy merchandise to sell. The NRF says to prevent fraud, register your card online in case it's stolen. It also suggests using it sooner rather than later. Over $1 billion in gift cards went unredeemed in 2013.
As UPS and FedEx brace for a last-minute holiday buying blitz by consumers, retailers are also anticipating a rebound in spending. This morning, we are turning to Todd Horwitz of Average Joe Options for ideas on retailers to put on the shopping list.
You can always look at, Walmart. I mean, they had a strong number. They made new company highs. Target reports could be okay. I think, if I looked at one, I like Costco. I think Costco is probably the best retailer on the street. I think they do it the best. I think they act the best. And the one I don't like, the one I like the least, just in case you ask, is Abercrombie & Fitch. I think their days are numbered.
Thank you so much for that, Todd.
Some tips on hiring from the head of one of the most successful stores in the how to help you stay organized sector, the Container Store. Its CEO, Kip Tindall, writes in the Harvard Business Review, need to hire someone? Try your customers. They are already enthusiastic about your products. Next, a thorough selection process. The Container Store has at least 3 interviews after a job application is submitted. Third, problem-solving ability and a bias toward teamwork are 2 qualities ranked as important as communication skills and attention to detail.
Customers want to be helped by great people, and employees want to work alongside of other great people. So if you hire somebody that's 3 times as effective as somebody else, you can absolutely afford to pay them 50 to 100% above industry average.
And the Container Store does pay more. Full-time employees make around $50,000 a year, get more than 260 hours of training in their first year, as compared with the industry standard of 8 hours. For that, the turnover rate is under 10%.
Americans are adding up the dollars needed to cover the cost of holiday dinners. It's expected we will gobble up 22 million turkeys for the Christmas season alone. The number of turkeys in frozen storage this year hit the lowest level since 2011, but there's plenty of fresh turkey to go around. According to the American Farm Bureau Federation, this year's meal will cost about 40 cents more at $49.41. The bump up is coming from the rise in dairy prices.
In our cover story, another year, another record harvest. Corn and soybean yields were up. That usually means a dip in prices for a while. But what happens to the harvest as more and more farmers retire at a faster rate than young people choosing life on the farm? Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack is on a recruiting mission. He says it can't all be done by machine. With a group from Chicago Public Schools High School for Agricultural Science in attendance, Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack said the U.S. is facing a rapidly aging nation of farmers.
Agriculture is a big deal. And as soon as the rest of the country begins to realize it and appreciate it, we're probably going to find it a lot easier to attract bright young people to this industry. And it has the capacity and the ability to help be at the center of solving all of the major global problems we face.
Vilsack says there are 3 times as many farmers over the age of 65 as there are under 35, and that the average age of farmers in America is 58. Women own about 14% of U.S. farms. That's down 6% since 2007, which is why Vilsack is urging Congress to pass legislation to boost U.S. ag production.
I think we need to, in the United States, continue to do a job of encouraging and recruiting women into the agricultural business. I think it needs to be reflected in the makeup of boards and commissions. It needs to be reflected in the efforts of beginning farm and rancher programs.
Commodities traders say it's not so much that farming needs a more exciting image as it's becoming too expensive for young people to enter.
The price of farmland and therefore the barriers to entry are really pretty high, and that precludes a lot of young people from getting involved.
Vilsack also touched on a variety of farm issues, including the need for fewer chemicals, better environmental stewardship. But he did not have a lot of concern over further consolidation of the meat industry, recently highlighted by Tyson's acquisition of Hillshire Brands. The weather was challenging, to say the least, during this year's harvest. In Iowa, for example, much of the corn that came in was late and wet. That means elevators will need to dry it. That could push higher propane prices, as it did there last year.
It's not just people who are enjoying the abundance in America, it's also their pets. Using some pretty terrific American ingenuity, some savvy entrepreneurs started up Milo's Kitchen Treat Truck. It's a food truck that caters to Fido. The truck serves up dog treats, a doggy selfie photo booth, and even a lapdog lounge. It's a marketing gimmick for sure, but it's also successful, according to brand manager Connie Sintuvent.
We were telling ourselves, you know what, we have such a great product that looks like the food you would eat, and we believe that dogs are people too. So we saw many families and people on the weekends enjoying food trucks, and we thought, why shouldn't our dogs enjoy this experience too?
The doggy treat truck was so popular last summer, it's likely to roll into more than 15 cities in the summer of 2015.
A growing segment of the small business world is expected to generate $1.4 trillion in 2014. That's a 72% jump since 1997. Yet, they say they're largely ignored by deep-pocketed investors. That's why women business owners are instead turning to each other. Diane Mocha reports.
When women, such as consultant Alexandra Levitt, leave the corporate world to start their own business, the reasons vary drastically, from escaping the glass ceiling to looking for more work-life balance to just trying to generate income after getting laid off. But the obstacles they confront are often the same because of their gender.
That is something our research has shown, that females tend to have a lower level of confidence than their male counterparts who are small business owners.
I had an interesting situation with Center City where I was laughed out of a lot of rooms. And a lot of venture capitalists, particularly around the time of like a Series A, that first funding, they don't get it, they haven't lived it, so they're going to go fund a beer company instead.
CEO Genevieve Thiers says that's what she faced in 2001 when she started SitterCity.com to bring together nannies and parents. Genevieve says it's happening to other female entrepreneurs, especially those seeking funding for companies that solve problems confronted by women, including childcare.
It was not something that was looked at as a billion-dollar industry. I'm happy to say I'm now rich. It is a billion-dollar industry.
More than a dozen female business leaders hope to use their success to change the system, sharing secrets for overcoming hurdles with 500 women entrepreneurs gathered in Chicago for the American Express Open Forum for Women. Started in 2013 with one event and expanded this year to 3. The goal? To boost the number of women-owned companies, currently about a third of all small businesses.
I really believe in paying it forward. I think it's so important to, starting a business is hard.
The hard work paid off for Alexa Von Tobel, who was on the cover of Forbes in August and has raised $72 million in financing for her 4-year-old financial planning startup, LearnVest.com.
Still to come, drivers rejoice while low gas prices could continue. And Blue Christmas, the holiday box office, gets a dose of drama this year. Plus, one author tries to rid millennials of the recession flashbacks. Stay with us. They are young and they are optimistic. A Bank of America study finds that millennials ages 18 to 34 are the most optimistic group in America. 82% of millennials say they are confident the economies in their towns will improve in the next year. Only 41% of baby boomers held that same view. The survey also reveals that young entrepreneurs are more likely to take risks and tend to be confident about their company's prospects. Bill Mahler joins me now with one area that young people do have fear. The stock market.
The Depression babies, they were called, the great generation after the market crash of 1929 that never again would put their money into stocks or into a bank. Well, today we've got the recession babies who, because of our recession, are afraid to invest in stocks. And you know who has the greatest aversion to equities? Millennials. Investment manager Patrick O'Shaughnessy, he thinks this is such a mistake. He's written a book about it. It's called Millennial Money, How Young Investors Can Build a Fortune. You know, absolutely, Patrick. These are the people who can take the greatest advantage of that beautiful thing called compound interest.
Yeah, this is the great paradox in investing, is that the time that it matters most to be thinking about it is when you're young, when each of your dollars has the most potential. If you think about the long-term history of the stock market, the average potential of every dollar, if you started investing when you're about 25 years old, is that dollar growing to about $17. That's a huge return. Most people wait until they're about 40, when retirement is actually on the horizon. They can start thinking about it to invest. The problem is a typical result there will be $1 turning into about $5. Wow. So a huge amount of return foregone by waiting.
Even people who understand this, though, not millennials only, are still harboring some measure of aversion to it, too. How do you get young people off the dime and get them focused on this missed opportunity?
So millennials have it right. They're right to be conservative and worried about their future. Where they've got it wrong is in thinking that stocks in the global stock market is an extremely risky place.
They've seen people burned, in fact.
Of course, twice, right? So you're very much imprinted by the environment in which you grow up. We've had, my generation, 2000, 2008, 2 huge 40% crashes in the overall market, often bringing financial ruin to some of the people that we love. And so we view stocks as inherently risky. Now, you can't view risk as just a black and white concept. If you do it that way, yes, in the short term, stocks are very risky. But we're young. We're 25, 30 years old. We've got up to 40 years until retirement. Over that long time period, stocks have always been the safest investment of all of our options out there.
Sounds like parents should be talking to their kids about that, because I think most kids are of a mind of spend, spend, spend.
There's no doubt about it. It's a crime that it's not taught in high school and college. I took 8 years of French and didn't take 1 hour worth of learning about money and investing. So parents is a great place to start by just basic lessons for their kids.
Patrick O'Shaughnessy, the book again is Millennial Money. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Bill.
Coming up, the films our critic believes are worth your money at the box office this holiday season, plus what Main Street and Wall Street have in common this year. Film studios have holiday hopes of a bounce at the box office. Our movie man Eric Childress is here to tell us what's hot on the screen as the temperatures chill. And hopefully those audiences will be filling those seats for the holiday. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So 3 films really to watch on the big screen here. The Interview by Sony, Into the Woods by Disney, and Unbroken by Universal.
Yeah, a couple films in there, obviously looking for some Oscar consideration as well as some bucks. Disney's Into the Woods is an adaptation of the Stephen Sondheim musical. They're really hoping that they're going to pull in some Les Miserables dollars there, though it's interesting that they haven't really been advertising the film as a musical, which it very much is.
The Interview is a comedy, correct?
With Seth Rogen and James Franco hired to assassinate the leader of North Korea.
Interesting.
Yes.
Unbroken. Angelina Jolie debuts with this film.
Yeah, this is her second directorial directorial effort for the big screen, and this is a true story about a World War II pilot who was downed in Japan and the sort of the suffer that he went through in an internment camp.
She really is enjoying directing.
Yes.
It's been interesting to watch your career. Okay, the holiday-ish openings at the box office include American Sniper by Warner Brothers, Big Eyes by the Weinstein Brothers, and Selma, Paramount, The Gambler, Paramount, Still Alice, Sony Classics. I'm going to start with Still Alice because that was getting some buzz at the film festivals this year.
Yeah, it premiered at Toronto this year, and Julianne Moore, who's been nominated a number of times but still hasn't won any Oscar for Best Actress. There's a lot of buzz that this could be her year. I think it's going to come down between her and Reese Witherspoon for Wild.
Now, American Sniper, will that be a heavy film?
It is. It is Clint Eastwood's, and again, it's based on a true story about a real-life American sniper who is confirmed with over 150 kills in Iraq, played by Bradley Cooper. So it's a heavy film. It's a war film. The Lone Survivor did very well this past year, so we'll see how this one picks up with people.
Big Eyes.
Big Eyes, another true story based on a painter. Tim Burton directs it. Amy Adams, Christoph Waltz, both very heavily favored at the Oscars. Usually, whenever they have a movie out, this is getting some mixed reviews so far. So we'll see if Amy Adams has a chance at another Oscar nomination.
Also coming out, Selma. March on Selma?
Yes, the March on Selma with the story of Martin Luther King's famous march, and it's really generating some terrific buzz, some early screenings, and a lot of people are sort of touting it as a very serious Oscar player this year.
And then Paramount comes back with The Gambler.
With The Gambler, this is a remake of the 1974 film with James Caan. Mark Wahlberg plays the character, a college professor who gets obsessed and put into the gambling world, and it's about his addiction. And very good trailer. We'll see how the movie plays out. Again, Mark Wahlberg has done some movies over the years that have really drawn people to the box office. We just mentioned Lone Survivor. This could be another one that could pick up some steam.
Do you think there will be a money bounce at the box office this year? How are the profits looking?
It should be interesting. I mean, I think Into the Woods is going to do very well. It's very fanciful. I think all ages are going to see it's PG rated. Unbroken is going to definitely draw some interest with all the Oscar buzz. And this is the period when, while the movie studios are looking for the dollars, they're looking for that Oscar buzz and that awards attention to sort of help sell the movie. So that's what people are going to have their eyes on, because those ish movies that we mentioned, those are the movies that are going to be opening in a limited release, so you're going to have to wait a few weeks around the country for people to find them.
So a double hit to watch, the money and the Oscars. Can't believe we're already talking about the Oscars.
That time of the year.
Good to have you here, and thank you for all the work you do all year long, Eric.
Thank you.
Still ahead, from the harvest in the heartland to wins on Wall Street, reasons to be thankful are right around the corner. In Tar Talk this morning, we are taking a look at reasons for Americans to be thankful. Chris Gersh of Altamus Capital joins us from CME Group. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Angie.
Let's start with those low gas prices. Oil trading down to the 70s this year. Do you see any kind of a breakout for oil? Do you see it ramping up?
Angie, I don't see any breakout for oil. Despite me driving a V8, I don't think that there's many of me out there right now. I think a lot of individuals, especially considering how cold it's been, are not going to be traveling as much this year. A lot of the retail shopping is more and more online, and therefore the demand, I think, especially locally in the U.S., is going to be lower, and I think that is going to keep it range bound under $75.
And then what about this record harvest? Soybeans and corn have had a terrific year.
Soybeans and corn have had a terrific year, a very volatile year, way down and then way up in the last month or so. And that's really based on those yields being fantastic. And the fact is that the product of the rain that we had last spring has really more or less converted into a huge, huge yield for a lot of the soybean and corn farmers here in Illinois.
Do you think that those lower prices on corn that you're seeing in the futures will translate into lower prices at the grocery store in the coming year?
Unfortunately, a lot of that correlation that you are hinting on, Angie, has not been seen. I think meat, specifically milk, and some of the other commodities like coffee are all much higher, and I believe really right now that correlation, trading that into any sort of lower prices at the supermarket, isn't something that people should trade on.
Well, one thing that has been the gift that keeps on giving is the stock market, Chris. It looks like we might end strong here.
Angie, the fact is we might have this Santa Claus rally continue, and we might see that carry through the first quarter with FOMC coming out in the fourth quarter with news that we're not going to raise rates for a while, I think that gives a lot of investors confidence that if they want any yield, that it's going to come from the equity market.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
And before we take off for today, a thank you for being such loyal viewers. We are truly grateful you watch our show. From all of us at First Business, happy holidays.